She thought it was just vertigo, but what my guest discovered next completely changed the way she saw her health, her mind, and her purpose. You're going to want to hear this. Hi, friends. It's Natalie here. And today's episode of the podcast is one that's going to speak straight to your heart, especially if you've ever felt like your body was sending you signals that your mind couldn't quite explain. My guest is Helene Beck, host of Coming from the Heart podcast, and a woman with a powerful story of resilience. Helene opens up about how a debilitating experience with vertigo and the complete unraveling that followed led her to a deeper understanding of the mind-body connection, the importance of community, and the messy but meaningful process of healing. This is one of those conversations that reminds us you are not alone in your struggle, and sometimes our greatest breakdowns actually lead to the most unexpected breakthroughs. And speaking of breakthroughs, if you've been feeling off physically, maybe sluggish, or just not yourself lately, I invite you to download my free Gut Reset Plan. It's packed with simple tips to help you reduce inflammation, improve digestion, and feel like yourself again. You can grab it at natalietysdal.com/gut reset. Totally free. It's my gift to you. And if you've been enjoying the podcast, would you take a moment to rate and review it? It means so much to me, and it helps more people discover these important conversations. Let's get into it today. Here's my conversation with Helene Beck. Helene, it's so nice to record with you today, and I just feel like I'm having coffee with a friend.
You are having coffee with a friend. Although I'm not having coffee, I'm actually drinking my hot water. So cheers to you.
Well, good, because I like it when we drink hot water. Just put some lemon in it. We talk about that a lot.
You know what? I was rushing this morning, so I'm just going to tell you the truth. It's just straight up hot water.
That's okay. It's good for your gut. Good for your gut. I'm all about that. Today, though, instead of gut health, which I talk about a lot,
Yes.
I want to talk about mental health.
Okay, sure.
And you are such a prime example of taking a hardship and mental health issues and turning it into something good. So give me your history.
First of all, thank you for bringing me to your platform and having this conversation with me. And I think when you came onto my podcast, it's weird to be interviewed because I have to be like in the other seat because usually I'm the one, as you know, asking the
It's
questions.
easier to ask the questions, isn't it?
You think so? I think so.
It's more fun to be able to just talk, though.
I know. And I love the way you present your platform and your podcast, and you just are authentically you. And I think that's how we just kind of connected on that. So thank you for that. And thank you for having me. To answer your question, what was your question again?
Tell me your history. You know, I want to go into mental health, women's mental health particularly, because sometimes your story is fascinating to me because it was your physical health that led to a mental health breakdown.
Yeah, totally.
And it all works together, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Well, okay. First of all, right. Mind and body. You know, when people say mind and body, like, what does that even mean? And what did it mean to me? Almost 5 years ago, I'll slow down here, June 10th, 2020, I sat in my space that I'm sitting in here right now, and I was suffering massively from loneliness, isolation, and having vertigo brought on all these things that I really never had dealt with. I was a full-time international graduate professor at Stevens Institute of Technology, working in a very different world than mental health. And I, for the second time, was going through a bout of vertigo and was rather sick. And it was pandemic time was happening. And I was fortunate to move down to a space where I am down here in my hometown of South Jersey and try to figure out really in my own way what was going on with me. Because I guess to answer it, or to your point, I had the physical symptoms of vertigo, but was not being addressed was the mental health component of it. And it was only towards my space of recording so many different guests that initially started hopping on where I had that aha moment where, well, wait a minute, I'm having these physical symptoms. Here I am as a female, I'm a woman. My symptoms may be different if a guy was going through vertigo, but here I am as a woman going through these things. And I never, honestly, Natalie, it's crazy, put the pieces together that my physical health was part of my mental health part.
Yeah.
I'd never gone through any mental health issues my entire life. I lost my mom at one point years before, but it didn't spiral me into this very, very dark space of mental health, which what I was going through. So not only was I trying to balance, I mean, that's a funny word because I wasn't balancing at anything all in my life, but trying to figure out how my physical symptoms were so interconnected to the mental health component. And again, like I said, it was only through conversations I had with incredible voices of people and guests coming on where I stopped and said, holy shit, like this is a mental health issue. Having the podcast really, when I segued it back to, June 10th, 2020, was really about like-minded voices sharing journeys of inspiration. I don't know if I would quantify it 100% as a mental health podcast at that moment. It was just me getting my voice out there because it was a way for me to validate myself, not feeling alone, create a community, and just being able to, I guess, communicate my thoughts and feelings with like-minded people.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for a lot of us, especially in our age group, that we don't realize for you, vertigo, like that is miserable. I mean, I want you to tell me more about that but I want to touch then on our age group in particular. Things start happening: perimenopause, menopause, brain fog, fatigue, all these things, and we're like, what is and it's usually at the height of our mom needs, So my daughter needs something, I have to drive. Money is tighter because for a lot of families, we're trying to think of how we're going to send our kids to college. Like all these things happen. Our parents get ill. Like all of these things happen around the time when we and our bodies and our hormones are changing too. So talk about mental health, all of that compounds. But let's go back to what you went through in vertigo. That is a really tough thing to go through. Are you better now? And what did you experience?
Yeah, thank you. Well, actually, having vertigo when I started having symptoms, which was probably December 2019. That was right, in the pre to the pandemic happening, of course, March 2020. So, I, as you very eloquently said, mom, full-time working person, driving 4 hours a day to get to work, the intensity of that, and being a director of a program, and just 1,000 balls in the air. And when I had vertigo the first time, I was going through a master's program for grad school. So you can imagine like the stress on that. And then when I retrospectively look back at this, only really now to say, what were the signs? What was going on in my world and what was going on in my body that perpetuated these situations? Well, stress, absolutely. Not taking care of myself, no self-care, lacking sleep. I had a few different car accidents where I had messed up my neck a lot, whiplash and stuff. So that was a problem with driving. You're frozen when you're driving, you're stressed. And that was really for both situations when I had it in my late 20s and then also having it, 4+ years ago. But really, to your point of perimenopause and menopause, 100% yes. Like that was also a factor. I have allergies. I have sensitivities. I was literally like a bomb waiting to happen between the stress, working, not taking care of myself. I was going through a malware attack, if you can imagine, at a technology university. I was working immense amount of hours. So, and yeah, I got signs to slow down. I remember my neck was frozen. I didn't feel great, but I was a working mom. I had to do what I had to do. My son was in high school. To your point of looking for colleges, a million hats, and then kaboom, the bomb went off in, November, December, where I was having episodes of having vertigo, but still kept going, still kept driving, still kept doing everything. Thank God I didn't crash my car or do anything else. But yeah, it was debilitating. I was really, really sick when I went out and had to go out on a disability. Having the symptoms of menopause, I think I was really going through perimenopause, then menopause. My hormones were all over the place. And that was a large, large component of what was going on with me in my body and my brain.
How do you deal with vertigo? And do the doctors know, is stress and all of these things happening at the same time that cause it, or what causes it?
I don't know if there's even a definitive answer to that, really.
Yeah. Most people don't know.
No,
it's just like they deal with it.
I think it could be a million things. It could be one thing. I think if I look back when I had it the first time, I was going to grad school. I was, I can almost feel like that that something that goes off in my head when I feel excessively stressed and I just keep pushing. So I think stress had a lot to do with it. Maybe hormones at that time. I wasn't pregnant with my daughter yet. And then, how do I say this? I was in a grad program, and soon after I had vertigo, I got pregnant. And then my vertigo symptoms kind of dissipated because your body levels, your blood levels obviously change when you're going through a pregnancy. So that was the first round. The second round, to my point of what we're talking about today, was I just think it was a multitude of many different components. I have sensitivity, I have allergies, I have TMJ, I have a lot of different things that altogether pretty much is why and the how it happened. Now, also, like you say, okay, well, what do you do when you have it? It is, as I called it, initially you silently suffer, because on the outside, you look fine. You look like everything's going on okay. But in the inside, you are literally falling apart. Your pieces of yourself are just a disaster. And you're trying to function, or as I say, I'll put it in the first person. I was trying to function, because again, everybody deals with this so differently, and drive a car and everything like that, until I went to see many, 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 many doctors who didn't help me. I went from neurologist to cardiologist to this one, to that one, to being put on antidepressants, to you name it, I went through it until I, once again, when I say once again, I went back to a holistic world that I had been used to when I was actually first pregnant, when I was pregnant with my daughter, to say I'm going to go the acupuncture route. And then that definitely helped me, not 100%, but what I think really helped me the second time was going to a physical therapist. I can give a shout out to she saved me. I said she's my angel. And her name was Helene, and she literally was like, okay, this is what we're going to do. And without knowing at the time, she really was supporting my mental health, because I was having navigation issues to even walk across a room. I mean, it was bad. So that's, it's one of those things. There's not one suggestion. There's many suggestions. But when you're at the rock bottom, there's only one place to go. And that's how.
A lot of us have had a big wake-up call in our lives. Big, like, oh boy, things have to change, or I'm not going to be here. Yeah. And that sounds like that was the second time around, especially kind of your big wake-up call. What has changed since then? What advice do you have for people when they have the big shock? And sometimes it's in the form of, a financial crisis, a death in the family, an illness. For me, my health declined rapidly, getting up in the middle of the night for so many years. But yet I kept plugging through, just kept doing it, doing that morning show because it's what I thought I had to do. If this was your wake-up call, which I'm guessing it was, tell me, how did things change?
Good question. I think what changed maybe initially is not what has changed now. Okay. I think it's a continuum of a healing process. I don't think I just evolved and became Helene, the creator of Coming from the Heart podcast 5 seconds ago. I think that in the 5 years now, which will be June 10th, I celebrate my anniversary, it's been a journey. And I can't think of another word but journey, because when I decided to do a podcast, and my daughter was kind at the time and brought me onto the platform at Spotify and Apple and so forth, I knew that, like I was saying earlier, if I could connect to a community, of like-minded people, that I could somehow get through this. It was my place of solace. The podcast became my alter ego or my alternate something. And the more I spoke to people, the stronger that I got within my core, within myself. And I'm not going to say, to your question, or, the advice is that, I get emotional talking about it. Like, don't give up on yourself. You can do this. Try to pull back or pull into yourself as much as you can. And let me tell you something. There's days now where I still go through the trauma experience of what I went through. Going through anything, is trauma oriented. You don't have to go through a massive crisis in your life to have trauma. And when I went through vertigo, it was the most traumatizing experience. And I still deal with these flashes or these moments where if I'm having an allergy moment, the seasonal changes, and I feel dizzy or I feel out of it, I'm like right back there. I also see a really good therapist that has been helping me in the last year and a half. Tap into gratitude, tap into manifestation. That's what, I said, what I've thought about initially 5 years ago and what I'm doing now is very, very different. I have a more holistic life. Like I say, manifestation, gratitude, kindness. And when I'm kind of feeling off or I'm not having the greatest moment, I pull into my core of myself and go, okay, let's kind of, try to find a quiet space for this. And when I even speak about it, I'm like, is this even me talking about it? But I think you have to eventually find your voice somewhere. And it's really hard. It's painfully hard. And I feel like I pushed away a lot of my immediate family and some friends because I am that type of person. Like I had to fix it on my own. I had to do it on my own. But sometimes what I've now learned is it's okay to let some people in. It's really okay, because I never really wanted to do that. And it's okay to do that. It's a learning process for me. Definitely is.
You touched on some really important stuff there. I want to go back. The power of community. How we are not meant to do things alone, but there's something generational, I think, at least in our age, there we have this, like, at least I have a really strong mom, and I watched her go through some tough stuff, and I'm like, I can do this. I will do this. I'll work harder than everybody else. I'll continue working even when I'm in pain. And we're not, first of all, physically, we shouldn't. But then secondly, what I mentioned that you talked about was the power of community. And part of that community that you've found now, and part of that good friendships, is vulnerability.
Absolutely.
In needing people. And it's okay to
absolutely
be vulnerable with people. But there's something about, I think, our generation or our age, we're like, I got this. I don't need help.
Oh, no, of course
and
not.
That can really be hard on people.
100%. And I think that it's been a climb for me, being able to have a community or seek out a community, and the community, my family, close friends, and really the podcast, I get emotional talking about it. The podcast is Helene. Helene is the podcast, because the people that I've touched, the people that I've connected to, having you on the podcast, having so many of these great voices come on. And when people, speak their truth and they tell their journeys, and I sit back and I get it. I get it, because even though your story might be different than mine, it's similar to mine. It's how you got to go from where you are, or where how do I say this? Let me backpedal. What people see you as you present yourself as, and what you were. I am not the person that you saw 5 years ago by any means. Grown literally with this podcast. So I think, again, to the advice is that it's, let me tell you something. It's hard to heal. Healing is hard, Yeah. If you break a bone, it takes a while for that to heal. It's not a flip of the switch, and I think that advice that my physical therapist told me at the time, Helena, she's like, I remember there was different exercises, and I still do them. I do some visual exercises every single day. I probably am a little OCD on it, but I still do them.
Works for you. That's great.
Right. It does. It's sort of my mantra of my day, but is that, it's not a flip of a switch. Man, because I was like, well, how many exercises do I need to do? And she's like, you're going to be doing these for a while. And I think because our mentality, as women, as humans, as people, whatever, is that, we're so fast paced, like swipe left, swipe right. It's going to happen. Let me tell you, when you go through vertigo, you got to figure out, or whatever you're going through, or illness, etc., what is going to work best for you, and how are you going to get back to the life that you want to live? Because that was really my biggest trajectory, is I just want to be me. I mean, I've really thought about that into this conversation. I just wanted to be Helene again. Going through vertigo took everything away from me. It ripped me from everything my independence, my everything, and having to depend upon people. Oh, I don't want to do that, because that's not who I am. I do it all. I balance all the balls. And then it was like, wait a minute. But, it's really, when you're going through whatever the trauma experience or whatever you're going with, it's like, I think you just want to resume you. But what I can say now is the version of me. It's like, oh, now you make me cry. The version of me that I have now is pretty incredible. I'm happy with who I am.
And as horrible of the experience that you went through, it's made you the well-rounded, beautiful, inspirational person that you are right now. It's so hard to see it in the thick of our hardship that we're not where we're supposed to be until we go through that. Oh, that's so hard.
It's crappy because like my daughter and I will talk about, she's like, I don't know if I should talk. I'm like, you can talk about it. I can handle this. Like, if you hadn't had vertigo, look, I couldn't even say the word vertigo when I was going through it. Like I couldn't even say the word. Like, I mean, it's been a journey. It's been many different things to go through to be the healing process. And the healing process is still happening. It's
Yeah.
not over. It's continuing.
That's a lifetime though. Like you said, like you're learning this journey that you're on right now.
Oh, absolutely.
You went through the hard thing and you don't just switch some flip. It's like we are all healing every day from things
100.
that we didn't even know we needed to heal from.
Yeah, because the
Yeah.
trauma was so traumatic, I don't think of another word, that it really takes your brain to really understand that you're okay. But like I say, where I am now, like if I hadn't gone through vertigo, I wouldn't be sitting here having this platform, having these experiences. So my question is like to myself, like, do you have to really go through shitty things to
We
land?
kind of do. I hate to say that.
Do you think?
Yeah. And it's interesting because I interviewed someone months ago and he said, people think they had a perfect childhood. I don't have any issues. I don't have any trauma. But yet they're having other issues in their marriage or somewhere. It was a marriage topic. And he said, you really didn't have the perfect childhood that you think you had. Everybody's got something they're healing from. Many people just don't know what that thing is. And, sure, some have much easier lives than others. But I mean, in my own life, and I think for a lot of people, you don't grow on the mountaintop. You're not growing. You're not getting better. You certainly do in the valley.
Right.
My pastor at the school where I work said once, and this really resonated, that you will see God in the fire. You'll walk around every day and not really see things happening. But when you're in despair, when you're in the fire, for me, that's my faith in God. He is going to show up in the fire in ways that you just never even imagined. And to me, that's the valley. That's I'm here. What do I need to learn here? How do I need to grow?
Well, I think I love what you're saying because I think that we all have, this purpose. I was just talking to my son about this, like this purpose of like, what am I doing here? And I mean, I know my purpose is what I'm doing right now. I'm supposed to be here to connect people. I'm supposed to be here to do this podcast. When my when my dad passed and I went to the medium with my mom, which was that's a whole other podcast story, is that she said to me, I was going through some stuff at work and I wasn't happy and so forth. And she said to me, you're going to go through something in your life. Hello, vertigo. And this was about 3 years before. And it's going to be really, really horrible. And I'm like, no, don't tell me anything crazy. I don't want to know. And she's like, oh, no, you'll be okay, And what she mentioned or what she said is that you're going to have the ability to speak to the world. And I looked at her, and again, this is about 4 years before this is all going down with vertigo or anything. And I go, what do you mean? She's like, well, I really can't say much more about that. She goes, but the world's going to know who you are. And I thought, okay. And I literally, Natalie, I put it out of my mind.
Of course, because it didn't apply to you at the moment.
Didn't even think about it because I think that like in what you did in your job as a broadcaster, you wanted to share stories of inspiration and hope and beauty. And in my world, I was always in my educational world as a teacher and a professor, I was always supporting and giving. And now this is just this component of my life right now is exactly where I should be. Now, how I landed here, as we say, you had to go through the hells to get here. But I do believe in the universe, whether that's God or whatever people believe. But I believe that the universe is steering me to where I'm supposed to be going. And I'm just going with it. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for your inspiration. And I love that you have your platform and the platform that you're on here with me to share with people, to give them advice in getting through tough stuff, whether it be physical, mental, financial, relationships.
Absolutely.
We all are going to go through it. And we have a choice when we go through it. We have a choice. And that is to make something more of your life and how you relate to other people and what you do with it. So I'm so glad to know you and be your friend and learn from you.
Oh, you're so cool. Yeah, thank you. I think that really for me is that just keep going, man. Don't even in your crappiest, shittiest, worst, I mean, I started the podcast concept with my daughter literally on the phone. She was in college and I said to her, I just want to cathartically heal in some way. And I want it to, I want it to come from my heart. There's the podcast.
There you go. Coming from the heart.
Coming from the heart.
I will put a link to your podcast for those who want to continue to learn. I was honored to be a guest on your podcast. And
Me too.
for those who want to find you, I'll put links to your social media and your podcast in the show notes.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, come visit New Jersey. It's cool.
I know. I would love to. Well, we'll be in touch, and I just appreciate you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It really means the world to me. And thank you, everybody, for checking out me and Natalie. And you guys have a great day. Bye.
Thank you for joining the Natalie Tysdal podcast. You can follow along on Instagram and at natalietysdal.com. Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave a review so I can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next week.